Anne Fitz-Gerald is the director of the Balsillie School of International Affairs. She joins me now live from Toronto. Thank you very much for joining us here on TRT World. What is your navigation through the situation in Sudan right now?
I think we've reached the point where a move has to be made by some actor. There's been a tremendous amount of back-channel diplomacy and pressure by organizations like the African Union, IGAD, for the key powers in the back-channel efforts, including the US and the UK. And the UN, Antonio Guterres' appeal to have 3 days to allow for humanitarian supplies to come in, evacuations, the end of Ramadan and the beginning of Eid celebrations to be observed. So in some ways, it was very tactical as a move on behalf of the leader of the RSF to agree to observe this 72-hour ceasefire. Whether these promises and commitments will hold is another story, because if renewed fighting starts again, there will be a response to that fighting and it will spiral again, as we have seen happen. But you know, this conflict, in order to sustain itself, and many friends and colleagues that I'm communicating with in the country feel that the end is certainly not in sight as of yet. And for it to sustain itself, the power bases will require support, and that support will be drawn from the people, and each side will try to probably delegitimize each other and send disinformation out concerning each other. The power will be drawn from the sustainability of the fighters as well, and those fighters and forces will need food and rations and vehicles and fuel, and as a result there will be many shortages for other people as well. And lastly, both sides will want to appeal to different aspects of the international community for support. So the leader of the RSF speaking out first and agreeing on a 72-hour ceasefire is tactical on his side.
I wonder what more can the international community do at this point? Is there any responsibility that can be attributed to the international community when it comes to restoring peace in Sudan?
Well, I think it's the absolutely fundamental question here. There must be united diplomatic pressure to bring this to an end and have not just a 72-hour ceasefire, but a permanent ceasefire and laying down of arms and bringing the two leaders back to the table. Let's not forget that the precursors to conflict were centered around discussions on security sector reforms, reforms that were part of a bigger attempt to revive the democratic transitional government and to give the civilian leaders a role in this government. And as part of those security sector reforms, there were proposals on the table to fold the RSF force underneath the army. And this obviously did not go down very well at all. And both leaders are blaming each side for the repeated attacks on each other. But the thing about these bases, and even the army headquarters in Khartoum, is that they are all located one after each other on a road that is embedded in a very civilian dense area. And some of the RSF strongholds are the same way. So Khartoum is seeing very heavy fighting. According to my contacts on the ground, the heaviest fighting happened today. Many people are trying to leave the city. There are more and more checkpoints being set up, but we're seeing a lot of people, and the Sudanese people really come together as a community in these humanitarian stress times. We're seeing a lot of people gather together, help each other, water being transported from place to place, credits being transferred for electricity and power sharing. But with the airstrikes and the damage that have been caused by the fighting, there are technical difficulties in receiving this help, not to mention the airport has been a battle space, and that's where most of the supplies are coming in for humanitarian purposes.
Right, and certainly the situation is very concerning. And Fitz-Gerald, thank you very much for talking to us here on TRT World. Really appreciate your taking out the time.